Hi there and welcome to another workout where we can row along together. Now today's workout we're going to be working a little bit on speed. Now specifically it's going to be how you generate that speed. It's quite easy to think that you make this machine go fast by going up and down faster and faster, but actually there's two ways to do it. You can increase your stroke rate and you can increase the power from your legs. So today's main session is going to be a half-hour workout, and what we're going to do is we're going to row for 4 minutes at 20 strokes a minute at whatever natural pace that you can row at, or 2k plus 18 if you have a training pace. But then we're going to do 1 minute and we're going to raise the stroke rate up to 28 strokes a minute and see how fast we go just by increasing the stroke rate. All right. After that, we're going to row 4 minutes at 20 strokes a minute again, but then we're going to do 1 minute where we stay at 20 strokes a minute, but we then try and match the pace that we managed the first time round, stay with me, by just pushing harder with our legs, okay? So whatever pace you hit at 28 strokes a minute, you're going to try and get up to that just by pushing harder with your legs. And that will teach you the two different ways here that you can generate pace. So you can do it through stroke rate, or you can do it from just sheer grunt from your legs, okay? It's a really interesting workout to do and a lot of fun, and it's a great way to just work out over half an hour, and it's a little less boring and tedious, okay? I'll stick to boring and tedious, the row will be fine. So before we get into this half-hour workout, we're going to do a 4-minute warm-up where we can just get our body all eased up and things. So you have to set up your machine first and get your drag factor set where you want it to be for you on your machine. Okay, if you don't know about drag factor, how to set it and stuff, I do have a video up here on YouTube. Next up, if you can, please set your monitor to eye height so you don't have to look up and you don't have to look down. And finally, set your foot stretcher height for whatever machine you're using so that you're able to get into the front of the machine comfortably with your shins pointing vertically, okay? If you're set too high, you might not quite be able to get there. If you're set too low, it might be, you could just go scooting straight past and it grabs your toes and you hurt your back and stuff, all right? Last thing, if you're not in a concept too, resistance-wise, just set it to a point where you get a nice feeling from the stroke, but it doesn't feel like you have to really pull against it, okay? Right. So 4-minute warm-up, we're going to do this around about 18 to 20 strokes a minute, and I just want you to think about a relatively decent push from your feet as though you were just standing up, so you can work on the timing between your push of your feet and the handle picking up the flywheel or whatever your machine uses. This intro's gone on way too long, so let's get into our warm-up in 3, 2, 1, and we're off. So it's kind of, we're starting gently is what I'm saying, so it's a nice, you're just getting your body moving. If you're perfectly warm, if you've been doing something else before this, you can of course start this warm up a little bit more, with a little bit more intensity. But as I've been sitting at my desk all morning, and this is my lunch hour while I'm recording this for you, I need to remind my body that it doesn't just sit at a desk, that it also needs to move backwards and forwards on a rowing machine. So I can spend time working on the timing that I push with my feet, at the same time my hands connect the handle to the machine. And now, a minute in, I can increase the intensity just by pushing a little harder with my legs. And especially on the concept 2, that extra push when I connect the handle means that I'm fighting against more air, and so the intensity sensation increases. Don't have to change any resistance. Just pushing harder makes it harder. But as a result, I go faster. Okay, let's do 2 more strokes and then we'll put 1 foot on the ground. Here we go, so 1 foot on the ground, carry on rowing. So just push with the leg that's still strapped in. Try to keep your technique as normal as you can for the fact you only have one leg strapped in. So don't overreach at the front of the machine just because you can. Let's take one more. Swap feet. Very easy for me to do because I'm in socks. Bought new socks, and these have got, I think, more polyester in them, so the heels keep on slipping out the heel cups, which in many ways is a good thing, because when it slips out, it means I'm over compressing. It's a nice little hack. Okay, one more. Both feet in, legs straight, and row with your back and arms. Ooh. Now for me, this is the one that really, when I've been sitting in my desk, or sitting at my desk all morning, this is the one that really does say, you should stretch more. This pivot over my hips, I can just feel my back going, you don't move enough. Okay, let's roll to the front, straight arms and forward lean, and just press out with your legs. Now I say press because I don't want you to push too hard. I just want you to hold this position, forward tilt, straight arms, and connect your feet to your hands. So that works on the timing that I spoke about, but it also works on teaching you to hold the forward tilt at the start of the stroke. Last one. Now, of course, I'll talk technique in a bit of a wider way when we get into the main session. So don't worry if you're like, technique, what's he on about? I'll start and I'll talk you all through that kind of stuff. So have a quick drink, keep on moving up and down a little bit if you wish, and I'll describe one more time what it is we're doing today, and then we'll start the main session. Okay, so just a quick reminder then, what we're going to do is we'll row for 4 minutes at 20 strokes a minute. Now, if you have a 2K training pace, I want you to do this 18 seconds slower than that average 2K pace. Or if you don't have a pace, just row at 20 strokes a minute and run about 5 or 6 out of 10 effort. Whatever pace you hit is kind of what I want you to hold, okay? So it shouldn't really be too hard. It should get your breathing rate up, your heart rate up, but you shouldn't feel like you can't hold it, okay? This is a bottom intensity in terms of bottom, mid, and top, all right? Then we're going to do 1 minute at 28 strokes a minute. So just increase that stroke rate, which will mean that you have to push a little bit harder from the legs to get that stroke rate up. And the intensity will, of course, go up. That's going to start getting you towards that mid and top intensity. But we're only doing it for 1 minute, so it's fine. Woohoo! Then we go back to those 4 minutes and 20 strokes a minute, just to back off and ease off. But then we do 1 minute, holding that 20 strokes a minute, but you try and match the pace, the 28 strokes a minute pace that you managed the last time. So that's the 2 ways that you're going to get pace. And then we're going to do this in total, well, 3 times over if you look at both sides of it. But basically, it's a half-hour row. These are little 5-minute chunks, and then we'll be done. Woohoo! Okay? So let's get into this. Less talking, more rowing. I do wonder whether this is the point in the videos where people go, oh, I'm done with him. And turn off, but hopefully you're still here with me. Hopefully we'll row along together. It's almost like that's why I named the channel RowAlong. So starting off, 4 minutes, 20 strokes a minute, at around about 2K plus 18 pace, or 5 or 6 out of 10 effort. Just make sure you're nice and happy at this pace, okay? Here we go, in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Right, now if you're watching this in the video, you can just row along with me for stroke rate. If you are listening on the podcast, hopefully you can just hear the whoosh of my flywheel. You can follow that. Or you can just look at your monitor, whatever timer you have, and count up or down in 3-second chunks. Because 20 strokes a minute, it's just 1 stroke every 3 seconds. But the important thing is how you spend those 3 seconds. Because you want your drive phase, that's when you push the power into the machine, to be faster than your recovery phase. And at 20 strokes a minute, that means the easiest way to think about it is 1 second drive and 2 seconds recovery. And that's how you want it to be. You want to be recovering for the longest part of your stroke, where you're not putting in any effort. So you explode the power in, recover, power, recover. So 1 second drive, 2 seconds recover. And that 2 seconds is how you make sure that you are at the front of the machine again with a good body position, which will help you with your technique for the next stroke, which isn't just, technique isn't just there to give me something to talk to you about. It's really important for the efficiency of your stroke. It's important to help you get the power in from a speed point of view, and from an injury prevention point of view. And as we head towards our first minute, our first 28 strokes a minute, what I'd say now is the important thing is that you think about getting your power from your push with your legs, but you make sure as you're at the front of the machine that you have that forwards lean in towards the front and arms straight as you push. And that gets the power in there safely. Okay, 3 strokes to go. 2, 1 more. Here we go then, up to 28 strokes a minute. Push harder with the legs, and that should give you a faster drive phase. So where you were 1 second drive before, you're less than a second, and then your recovery also speeds up, and that's how you get your stroke rate up. Now keep a look at your monitor and take an average, just kind of work out what you're seeing most on screen. So I'm seeing 150, and we're back down to 20 strokes a minute. So at 28, I was rowing at 1 minute and 50 seconds per 500 meters. That's how the pace is set to display on my Concept 2's monitor. Make sure to return to whatever pace you were rowing at before, at 20s, at 20 strokes a minute. Don't back off. These 20 strokes a minute sections are just as important as the faster bits. It may take 45 seconds or so for you to just lock in to that pace again, but try and get there. And hopefully you have an idea of what pace you need to try to hit when we increase in just over 2 minutes time. Remember, the next one isn't about stroke rate. The next one is about power. Okay, so I keep on saying that you get the power in by pushing harder with the legs. So that's what you'll be doing in a minute and a half's time. But it's really important to have that forwards tilt, arm straight, and push. Push. And then you try to maintain that lean and straight arms as you push. And you only swing your back when you are run about halfway or more through the leg drive. And then you only pull your arms at the back of the stroke. So please don't grab and pull your arms too soon, or swing your back too soon. This is all about getting that power in from your push of the legs. 4 strokes to go. Let's see if we can manage it. 2 more. 1 more. Here we go then. Full power. You should really hear your machine scream as the flywheel or water wheel or magnet responds to this push, this surge of power. It really is taking everything I've got to get close. 1 more. Back down to the gentle pace. So 2K plus 18 or 5 to 6 out of 10. Ergzone just crashed. Oh well, that means no metrics for this row then. That means I can cheat. Don't worry, I won't cheat. So, hopefully, you understand what's going on. Both of these 1 minute sections are really tough, but whereas the one we just did was tougher from a muscle point of view, trying to push that pace into the machine. The one we're going to do in 2.5 minutes time will be more about cardio, using the stroke rate and your fitness to get the pace up. Obviously, you have to push harder with the legs to get that stroke rate up, but nowhere near as much as you do when you're just remaining at 20 strokes per minute and trying to match the pace. And what might have happened is that actually, when you were doing your max push just then, at 20 strokes a minute, you went faster than you did at 28 strokes a minute. In which case, try to see if you can row your 28s at that pace this time. Push a little bit harder, but remember, technique is king here. If you had a sloppy technique at 28, but a good technique at 20, try to match your technique, and you'll possibly find that that will be all it takes for you to match the pace. All right, 4, 3, 2. Remember, going up to 28 after this one. You ready? Here we go. So, push with the legs for a faster drive phase, and then get that handle away from you and past your knees before you bend them to help with a faster recovery towards the front of the machine. And that will be hopefully all it takes for you to get your stroke rate up to 28. Almost there. 10 seconds. 2 more strokes. And we're back to 20s and the easy pace. And that's us past the Bon Jovi point. We are more than halfway there. Try to get back to your easy 20 pace as quickly and smoothly as possible. It's easy to give in to the intense fatigue, or the fatigue that develops from these intense 1 minute efforts, but the 4 minutes at 20 are designed to give you an active recovery so that after 2 minutes or so, holding your correct pace, you should feel back to normal intensity for this stroke rate and pace. Don't let your brain take over, tell you that you need to stop or back off. I mean, a second wobble here and there is absolutely fine. What I'm trying to guard against is you dropping like 3 seconds in pace and not recovering to the speed you've been rowing at so far for these 4-minute chunks. After all, that's what makes this a great workout to do any day of the week. It's the variation of intensity gives you the space at these rates to work on your technique at elevated levels of fatigue, but then the 1 minute chunks give you variety in how you elevate your intensity. Most of my workouts do admittedly tend to be increase pace through stroke rate, so this is hopefully a welcome change. Speaking of which, 4 strokes to go, and then we will increase while remaining at 20 strokes a minute after this one. You ready? Push. So, arms straight, forward tilt, and then push the machine away with your feet while trying to hold that forward tilt and arms straight for as long as possible. Push. If you see the pace dropping, try to push harder with the legs. Only got 3 more to go. 2 more. Really push. There we go. Oh, back. Same rate, slower pace. 2 more of these sets to do, and then we're done. Now, like the warm-up, it's important to work on the timing between your push of your legs and your hands connecting to the handle. If you push your feet before you connect, your backside will escape from underneath you and you will lose a lot of power. That may not be too noticeable down here at the slower intensity. But once you get up to maximum push from your legs, if you lose 6 inches due to a butt scoot, not only is that 6 inches of leg drive that you're missing, but it likely also feeds in to an early swing of your back from that forward 1 o'clock angle into the 11 o'clock backwards angle too soon. Now, one thing I try to think about when I'm rowing is to never think about the backswing. Just concentrate on trying to lean or tilt over my hips for as long as possible. Hold it. So the whole time here, I'm thinking about being forwards, but just because of the mechanics of the stroke, as you finish the leg drive and pull in the arms, your body has no real choice but to recoil backwards. So you don't need to think about that. You just think forwards and then forwards, forwards. So get into that forwards tilt as quick as you can and hold it for as long as you can. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Up to 28. Now. Push harder with those legs. Make sure to connect your hands to the flywheel. Hold that forwards tilt. Get back into it as quick as you can. Fingers hooked over the handle. Don't choke it to death. Almost there. 15 seconds. 10. 2 more strokes. Last one. There we go. Back to 20s. Our last set. Make sure to carry on pushing, driving the machine away. So if you can think about holding a forwards tilt over your hips and pushing the machine away, they are the 2 cues that will hopefully give you the correct sensation of the power surging into the machine. And you should feel like you are almost hanging off the handle. Your backside is slightly lighter on the seat as the power surges. And if you feel like it's a very loose action when you're rowing, in fact, I read a post from someone yesterday saying they didn't feel like the Concept 2 they were using gave them any resistance. And I'd bet a box of donuts that they weren't getting this hang off the handle. They weren't pushing the power in. They were just moving up and down. Which could be said for a lot of rowers, especially those who've never really investigated or thought about technique. They're the ones that think it's all about pulling as though you were in a funfair wooden rowing boat. I mean, not funfair, but like a seaside boat pond where the seat doesn't move and all you do is pull with your arms. Well, there's a reason the rowing machine seat slides, and that is so that you can push your legs and get power from them, followed by your back, followed by your arms. Okay, 3, 2, 1, max power, 20 strokes. Really feel that hang as you push. Brace your core against the power. Let it flow through your body, into your arms, into your hands, into the handle. And only when your legs are fading do you swing over your back and then pull in your arms. 3, 2, 1. Oh man. That is one of those escalating intensity rows that starts off nice and gentle. You get exposed over the first 1 or 2 increases to a bit more intensity, but then by the point you hit the Bon Jovi point halfway, you're pretty much firmly in the mid-tier workout where you have to concentrate. Even at those 20 strokes a minute, 5 or 6 out of 10 paces, you have to concentrate on pushing hard enough to maintain that power because your fatigue set in. And then as you get towards the end of the row, it does get closer, especially that last minute, trying to get all that power in there. In terms of effort, that was a top tier push from my legs anyway. Hope it was from yours. So let us get in, if I can relaunch Ergzone, into a 2-minute cool down. Let me quickly, if I tell you what, there's gonna be a cut here. Okay, yeah, I had to reset my PM and the Ergzone app in order to get that to talk to itself. And I thought maybe you didn't want to just sit here looking at me with a furrowed brow. So we're gonna do a 2-minute cool down. You do this at around about the same intensity you did your warm up at. So here we go then in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh, don't be surprised if that push from your legs feels quite, well, let's say tougher than it was on the warm-up anyway. Just because you've been using your legs at quite a full capacity, then you'll have been just sitting there for a minute or so, and you go again, and your legs are like, whoa, we're working again, what's going on? But hopefully now that you've got some momentum into the flywheel, and you're good kind of 10 or 11 strokes into this cool down, everything's starting to ease off a little bit, and your body's saying, oh, thank you. I'm glad we're doing a cool down here. You've not just stopped and wandered off to make some lunch or sit at your desk. Which is why I have a stretching section at the end of the workouts, which I'm going to try, if I can, I'm going to try to do it live today instead of using Stretching Man. Not entirely sure how this is going to work, but we'll give it a go. In fact, yeah, I'll have to do it on, I will see what happens, whatever. Because stretching is important just to make sure your muscles get a chance just to be nice and long and loose. Or especially if after a power session, you don't want them to be all contracted and tight, because that's where next day soreness comes from. Okay, one more. Right, so don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to pivot this guy out the way, knock over my water bottle, of course. So stretching, I'm going to start with hamstrings, which is where my back lets me down, but hands in the air. So you're sitting down, legs out straight, hands up in the air, and then fold forwards, okay? Don't bend from the lower back, don't crumple in your upper back, and just fold forwards. Don't really, I mean, you can, if you can touch your toes, but what I don't really want you to do is to force yourself forwards, okay? You want to make sure that you feel the stretch in your hamstrings rather than it being in your calves or the back of the knees. If you start to feel it in the back of the knees, chances are you've got your legs down straight. So just allow a little soft, you want like a soft lock is what they call it, well, soft lock, yeah. So your legs are down, but you're not kind of locked out. That's the point when behind your legs can sometimes get a bit angry. If you want, you can bend your toes back towards you, and that will kind of elongate through your calves. And actually, if you tuck your chin down too, then and you flick your toes towards you, then what you're doing is you're stretching your sciatic nerves, which is my issue right now. So that's quite a good one. Okay, so that will hopefully do for hamstrings. Then we'll get into hip flexors next. So on your knees, one leg at 90 degrees, and then push the other, I'll swap legs. So there you go. So push this hip forwards. So you just push forwards while maintaining a good posture, okay? You know what I'm like with posture. And you should feel the stretch kind of coming down here through your hip flexor. You can go longer, you can go deeper if you wish, if you feel that gives you more of a stretch without falling over. That's a bit of a strange balance moment, isn't it? Yeah, so you can do that if you wish. But of course, always be careful when you're stretching something. You don't want to stretch it to a point where you snap it. Not that you're going to, of course, but yeah. Just find a comfortable point. Again, like you can see just then, when I stretch too much, I'm starting to wobble because I'm losing balance. Try and keep your knee above your ankle though. Let's swap feet. Much like doing lunges, you don't really want to take your knee too far past. There we go. My balance is ridiculous. Yeah, so again, so you stretch into your other leg, push that hip forwards, try and keep, you don't really want to slump over yourself because suddenly you're just putting all your weight into here. Whereas if you keep a good posture, whoa, then you should actually go back up on my toes. There we go. Then that you should feel it going through your hip flexors. And remember, because of the rowing action, your hip flexors do take quite a severe beating. And especially because at the back of the stroke, that point as you pivot forwards, a lot of that goes through your hip flexors. So it's a good idea to stretch them. Right. Next, I'm going to try and, how many of these? I'm going to try and do everything sitting down rather than standing up, because then my head will pop out the top of the screen. So this isn't the one the Stretching Man does, but I'll show you so you can do standing up and just holding your quads behind you, which is what Stretching Man does. But this one, it's a sprinter stretch. So put your foot against your thigh. Your kind of knee should almost go in the arch of your foot. And then you bend your leg behind, and then you kind of stretch back. Okay, and then you should feel it all coming up through your quads as you kind of lean the straight line. So it's like a straight line through your quads, through your obliques, up through your chest, into your head. If you start to shift the wrong way, you lose the stretch. If you come back, it's going more into the hip flexors than it is into the quads. So there's a definite, if you're going to do this one, you have to get the sensation right for how it feels. Otherwise, I recommend just doing the one where you stand up and you hold this kind of this position, but you're standing up and that leg's obviously straight. You'll have seen it in Stretchy Man, the other guy, when he stretches. So swap legs. Oh. So down, grab that one behind. So again, maybe this is the one I should have showed you because you can see it clearer. But yeah, and then just get that sensation right. Really, my ankles and shin muscles are there's so much to me that's so inflexible. I'm planning to, just while we stretch into this one, I'm planning to do co-production with one of my friends who's got a similar channel, JP. He's all about mobility and stretching and things, and so I want to do a video with him where he takes what he figures is the best stretches to do for a rowing point of view, because I approach this just as the stretches that I do for me and the ones that I've done through the years as a squash player and things. So it's not always the best for rowing. So he's going to show you. Right, so we've done them. Then we do glutes. So leg goes over your knee this time. Other leg is out straight. Fluffy from the socks, and then you're bringing this knee across your body. So I hold it with my other arm and then spin, okay? And then put the other hand behind you. What this does is it gives you a double hit, okay? So this is stretching my glutes down here, but also I'm getting a supine twist by rotating. My spine's getting a nice twist, which will hopefully ease it off, especially I have lumbar issues, let's say. And so this stretch definitely does help for me, and you just hold it for a while. But the focus really should be glutes first, okay? So if you have a better glute stretch to do that doesn't involve this kind of combo of the supine twist, then do what's best for you, because your glutes take a good old beating when you're rowing. So now I'm going to be rude in this one, of course, because I'm going to have to look the other way. So you get to look at the back of my head. Oh, crikey. Yeah, that's the side that hurts. Yeah. At least you can tell me if I'm going bald. I've got no idea if I've got a bald patch in the back of my head. My dad did. He blamed it on being in the army and always having to wear a hat in the army. But I don't think I am. I think I'd be cold back there if I had a bald patch. I know this isn't particularly rowing related, but I'm hoping that you're stretching along with me. It's a nice moment to relax. I don't know if I ever do the groin stretch in Stretchy Man. Basically, we'll do a quick one. So feet together. This is where you see just how inflexible I am. And then I put my hands, interlock fingers underneath so they're cradling my feet, and then just let my knees fall out to the sides. And that should really, your inner groin should be feeling, do you have an outer groin? Should really be feeling the stretch at this point. Yeah, which actually I was going back to JP, I was asking him about it, kind of saying, why does my back always go? And he was saying, well, you actually find that groin and abdominal instability is a huge cause of back issues. So that's why I'm stretching that. So, right, I'm still going to remain sitting down here. So get your arm, bring it across your front, okay? And then you can see I'm kind of interlocking my elbow over it, just to kind of give some kind of a force that way. And that is stretching the shoulder at the top, which you'll hopefully have felt before when rowing, that your shoulders, if you're connecting properly at the front, do take a little bit of force through the stroke. If you don't feel it, then Well, you shouldn't really be shrugging through your... If you feel it too much, it's a bad thing. If you don't feel it at all, there's a chance you're grabbing early with the arms. If you feel it's a little bit, you're probably getting it right. That's confusing, isn't it? But shoulders are important. Remember, you should be at the front of the stroke. You want to be hanging off your shoulders, okay? Hanging off your bones and tendons is a way to think about it, rather than grabbing with your muscles and kind of shrugging it. If you end up with your shoulders up in your ears because you're shrugging too much, that's not good, okay? You're going to get tired quicker, you're going to lose power and stuff. But if you can feel that hang through your bones and tendons, that's good. Right, triceps. This is where I'm awful at all of them. So hand, back of the neck, and then I then use my other hand to kind of push that arm backwards a bit, and then that kind of stretches the triceps. If you're flexible enough, you can put your other hand up your back, interlock your fingers, and kind of pull your hand down. I'm not. I was reading something the other day, in fact, that said, you're not getting old, you're just not stretching enough. And I'm like, that's me. Okay, so other one, I just don't know why So part of the reason is because I make these videos for you and then I don't actually stretch at the end of them, which is why I'm doing it today. I kind of have a little token row when I'm done filming, and then I do a stretch, and I'm pretty much stretching cold muscles. So that's why today I thought, you know what, I'm going to finish this row and I'm actually going to do a stretching session right afterwards to try and see if that helps. So far, I'm still quite inflexible. Okay. Forearms next. So I'm just going to get legs in a basket for this one so I can just sit nice and neat in front of you. So pray, and then pushing your hands together, bring them down, okay? And then you should find in here, gets a really nice stretch as you come down, okay? You could even see if spreading your fingers makes any kind of difference. See if, obviously rotating that suddenly gets into my wrist, bringing it in, kind of shifts the point where it stretches. So find the stretch where you're like, oh, that's exactly what I want. So really in the middle for me, and make sure and push those hands together. And you get a nice stretch. Again, if your forearms hurt when you're rowing too much, it's probably because you're grabbing and you're squeezing your hands into the handle and you're pulling with your arms at the front and you're kind of fighting against it. So if you get that real pain up here, it's because I get anything under 1,000 meter, I get in my forearms because I know that I'm pulling to try and get more power into there because I'm an idiot. But yeah, that's why. And then what's that? Oh yeah, the last one, I'll do this up on my knees, is biceps. So you want to be in a flying position, okay? Whee, as though you're like a ski jumper, but you rotate your hands out, okay? So your thumbs, you want to try and rotate them outwards, okay? And what that does is it stretches the long head of your biceps and makes you look like you're a ski jumper. Oh no, I could never, that's a sport I could never do just from a heights point of view. I could never do it because I can't ski, to be fair, but I could never do it from that thought of being at the top. We go to Tenerife quite a lot on holiday because the kids love it, and there's a water park there called Siam Park. Big shout out to Siam Park, give me free tickets. And there's one of the rides is called, I think I always get it wrong, it's the Tower of Terror or the Tower of Power, something like that. And it's one of these huge big slides. You have to climb all the way to the top, and then it's just like it's one of these vertical falls, and then you slide. But yeah, you slide at the bottom through a shark tank. But obviously you're in a tube, so you don't actually go through sharks. There's not like a shark there going, oh, dinner. Yeah, and getting to the top of that, oh, crikey. I mean, the ride itself isn't particularly scary. You just have to hold your breath for 5 seconds because there's so much water, and then you're done. But getting to the top of that platform and then climbing onto the thing and looking down and going, I'm really high up. Got a thing about heights and jam. That's the two things that I can't stand. Here's a question. American people, sorry for obviously UK folks, we all know what jam is. Every now and then I see people refer to jam in the US. Now, I thought jelly was jam. So like that's kind of strawberry preserve, spoiled thing that we have, the PB&J. That's jelly, that's what we call jam. So what's jam for you? That confuses me. Can't believe I'm talking, I mean, it actually makes me feel it's almost a phobia, my dislike of jam. Anyway, right, there we go. I'm done, I'm all stretched out. I hope you enjoyed the fact that this was a proper stretching session with me instead of just grumpy stretching man in the top corner. And I hope you enjoyed today's row as well. I really did. I mean, that's one that if I just want to slot in a workout that I'm like, oh, I want to do something that's a bit of everything, it's another great one to come to. I'm going to start making a playlist of my favorites, and that's going to get on there because it's a great one to come back to. It's only half hour, you get a huge variety of intensity and effort. You get to work nice and slow, you get to work nice and fast, and you get one heck of a sweat on. So I hope you enjoyed that as well. Please let me know in the comments, either on the podcast or YouTube or Facebook or wherever, even if it's on Instagram or TikTok, wherever you want to leave me a comment, then please do, and let me know whether you enjoyed this one or not. What can we... I tell you what, let's just have the hashtag jam, okay? It's not just because it makes me, yeah, you can have the hashtag jam, just let me know you got this far through, and people go, jam? What's he on about? So yeah, so thank you so much for watching this one. Please make sure and check out any of my other videos, whether it's me talking about apps or technique, or whether it's other workouts, or it's plans, or whatever. I've got hundreds of videos up here. Every single one of them is entirely free, and you can put up with me for longer. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I will see you in a future video. Until then, be well. Bye-bye.